these are those things that I do, not just for Palestinian lives,
Right.
not just it's just like, as a white person, I don't fight racism for black people.
Right.
I'm not out here fighting white supremacy to save black and brown people. Black and brown folks do not need white saviors. Palestinians don't need Jewish saviors. But I do think white folks need white folks to step up and
That's
save us
it.
from
It's
some
that
stuff.
that
And
part.
I
Yep.
think and I think we who are Jewish need we who are Jewish to stand up for a principled Judaism that has nothing to do with this political movement that literally stretches back just a little over 120, 130 years.
Yeah.
Like this particular political movement that we call Zionism is not the thing that Jews were dreaming about for thousands of years. It's
Yeah.
not this.
Hmm.
It's not this. This is a European colonial invention, and it was admitted as such by the people who created it. They publicly were telling the British
Yes.
and the Americans,
Yes.
like we are a colonial outpost. Like we will be a European civilization in the midst of barbarism. I mean, these were the words, the kind of phraseology they were using. Now, you might argue, well, they were just trying to sell it to the West, so as to get the partition in the first place and get maybe, but they knew what buttons to push, right? They knew
Hmm.
what buttons to push, and they weren't ashamed to say that's what they were doing. That's not Judaism. That's the farthest thing from Judaism. So just like Islam can be hijacked and has been by people who claim to act under its strictures, just like Christianity has been hijacked, right? So has Judaism. To me, I want my Jewish brothers and sisters to reflect the principles that I was taught were important for Judaism. Those were the principles that kept my Jewish family alive. It wasn't Zionism that did that. It was their faith and their belief and their heritage and their belief in the maintenance of their heritage and their customs and their traditions. That stuff is really important. And Zionism basically says, forget all that and let's subordinate that to a political project that is about power. And I don't understand how that can be conflated with Judaism. And when it is conflated with Judaism, all Jews are unsafe. I mean, this is the great irony of what
Yes.
Israel has done.
Yeah.
Israel is not just destroying Palestinian lives. Israel is making Jews unsafe all around the planet by what it is doing. That's not to say that Israel's actions justify
Of
anti-Semitism.
course
So I don't
not.
want
Of
anybody to get
course
that
not.
twisted. I'm not saying that.
Absolutely.
But but the reality is, it is a predictable response. Anti-Semitism is already a weak-minded philosophy. So if you got weak-minded people that are given to seeing conspiracies anyway, right, and assuming that the Jews are running everything, if you already got people that are on that tip, and then all of a sudden you start acting, the state of Israel starts acting just like they say all Jews are, you can imagine some weak-minded people are going to try to put two and two together and come up with these ridiculously twisted assumptions. On the other hand, if large numbers of Jewish folks would be like, no, time out, this is not me. This is not us. We speak for us. You don't speak for us,
Right.
right? If we started doing that, the whole edifice of anti-Semitism would begin to crumble. Because anti-Semitism is rooted in the idea that Jews are this monolithic conspiracy. Like, well, the monolithic no, you shouldn't think that. That's ridiculous to think it. But I can't control what you think. All I can control is what I say. All I can control is what I do. And if I say and do something that strikes at the heart of your conspiracy theory, I'm helping to break down anti-Semitism. On the other hand, if I just parrot what some dude in Tel Aviv says because he says it, and I'm supposed to listen to it, then that person who's given to thinking anti-Semitic thoughts goes, see, I told you,
Yeah.
rather than saying, oh my God, look, there are a lot of these Jewish folk out here, that are saying this is not them. So, I mean, I just think from just a purely self-interested perspective, Jewish folks ought to be concerned about what Israel has done to Judaism, not only what it has done, which is obviously much graver, literally graver for Palestinians and particularly children, but we're also strangling the best part of ourselves in the process. And I see it's the same thing I think white people do with racism. I mean,
Hmm.
white supremacy's primary targets are black and brown, but the collateral damage of our affinity for white supremacy is we compromise our humanity,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And men do the same thing when we buy into misogyny. We we
Yes.
we we limit who we can be as men.
Right.
So it's always both and, right? No oppression only hurts the oppressor.
Of
All
course.
oppressions come back I mean, it doesn't only hurt the oppressed, it also comes back to harm the oppressor every time.
And it's
every
much
time.
worse because it actually, it's impossible to poison another person's soul. You can poison
Right.
their body, but your soul is the only one that you really have access to. And a lot of
Yeah.
times when you poison somebody else's body, uh, that person will actually have a new relationship with the soul and with the unseen, with the world of meaning. Whereas the person doing the poisoning, you really have to detach from the world of meaning. Like you have to detach from God to be able to
Mhm.
harm somebody else like that.